Okay, people. So I am joined today by director Jason Laurits.
Yeah,
Oh,
good
fantastic.
job. Everyone usually messes that up.
Woo!
I usually get Lauritis, which sounds, like a disease.
Oh man. So yeah, no, you are the writer and director of Goodbye Tango,
Yeah, yeah,
which is a short showing dances with films,
yeah. We're
right?
premiering there. A little short film. My second premiere in Dancers with Films.
Outstanding, outstanding. This, like, I had no clue what to expect, and especially the way this film opens, right? With Ruth being like, "Ah," you're just like, "Wait, what is this?" you know. But this is such a lovely little story.
Oh, thank you.
It's so, because I think you're able to convey so much emotion without words, which is just an incredible feat. And especially, I find with a short, so it's 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
15 minutes, and you're able to get so much across. How the hell does this story come about? Because also, I've not seen this story, right? And a lot of times there's stories and they're good, but you've seen that story before. This is just a different way of telling it. But this, I've not seen this. So how did this come about?
Well, it's interesting that you said, I didn't use so much words. I think I learned a lot between my first short and my second, because my first short was very dialogue heavy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but after going to festivals on that, my first short was called Cocktail Hour. Um, Going to festivals on that and seeing a lot of shorts, I kind of realized with my second, I wanted to kind of step back a little from the dialogue and experiment more with visuals and have a very limited sort of dialogue sort of script, which was a little hard because I feel like the script, when people read it, it was hard to get across um, how it was going to play out and how it was going to feel and look. And um, I even was a little nervous with the script up until we started filming. Thinking like, did I like write the best draft of this? Are we good here? But the story, sort of originated from my own experience with losing a pet, my dog Annie, during the pandemic, actually. So that was like a double whammy, and just sort of the grief the that comes with it, and all the additional things that come with it, because and I've certainly experienced death. I've lost both my parents, all my grandparents. So I've been there plenty of times, and obviously those were all very very hard thing to go through, and took a lot of time to process. But what was interesting about losing a pet was that beyond just the love you had for them, it was it was losing like a daily routine,
Mm.
and it didn't occur to me until after losing her how much my life sort of revolved around her on a daily basis. um, and you lose that, and you're sort of mourning that as well. um, and then there was also just a weird sort of feeling of like, you know am I do you mourn as bad? This is just as hard to go through as losing, a human. And you almost feel a little weird about that, or guilty about that, or maybe it's projected on you a little bit by other people. That kind of, you have this sense of like, it wasn't just a dog. Um, and so yeah, so it was these weird emotions, and then the normal stages of grief, that just putting that all together, how I created the whole story, I guess.
Yeah, I think as you say, there's the routine, right? Especially with a dog, because there's, you're getting up to let the dog out, in the morning, take it for a walk. There might be a walk in the evening. There's more set I think with a dog, there's everything is more set. With a cat, cats are like mad frivolous. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? They tell you when things happen. You don't tell
exactly.
them. But a dog is just like, okay, it's 12, right? 12, we do this at 12. Okay, we do this at 4. You know, and that's how it is. So yeah, when they're not there, it's just this void.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think any pet, whether it's a dog or a cat or a hamster, it's just this energy that when it's gone, it's strange. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. And I think it is a weird one because yeah, people go, it's just a pair. But I think people kind of connect with pets in different ways. Some people it's, just a thing in the room. And other people it becomes a part of the family. Right. So it depends on how you connect with a pet to how you emotionally cope when they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was you know, fascinating just seeing this story unfold for Ruth. And then you've got the marriage on top of that.
Yeah.
Which,
This the hamster sort of distracted her from
mm,
the cracks in her marriage. It was sort of keeping her glued in. And so when she lost that, it just starts to kind of all unravel. And I think also the stages of grief sort of go in play there too, and you're maybe not you're in the right mindset, and you're starting to kind of just unravel yourself. When I lost my dog, I found myself at one point in a screaming match with my neighbor over some yard work stuff. Like a nice neighbor that just got me at the wrong time, and I was like within 24 hours of her death. I think it might have been even later in the day, and I was doing yard work, but yeah, I mean, I just caught myself not being myself. Um, and you're just you're just going through it, I guess.
mm, yeah. I thought it was interesting the way you showed Ruth coping with this. And as I think it really gets summed up with the leaf blower, right? When she comes in the house and you think, oh shit, she's gonna, but she doesn't. Right? She aims at the face. You're like, you could have just caused mad havoc, but she doesn't even do that. Which I thought, oh, that tells you volumes about this woman.
Yeah,
Right?
she just needed a little sort of burst to kind of get some stuff out.
Mm,
She was
mm.
pushed.
Yeah. Like, how did that come in the storytelling? Knowing how far each person would go, right? Because you've got Connie, who just seems ambivalent to Ruth in a way, but isn't like terribly mean, like cold, aloof, but not like there's no verbal or physical abuse or anything like that. So, like, when you are thinking about these characters, was it a natural thing to go, okay, I feel they would be like this, or was it kind of a tweaking process of being like, no, actually, I don't think they would probably go that far. I feel they'd be more here, and you know what I mean? Like, how did that come about for you?
Yeah. Well, the character with Connie, well, with both, in general, to answer your question, it kind of was a little bit of both. Uh, tweaking the script, tweaking in production, the contributions the actors made, and then in editing, making some choices too. And specifically with Connie, there was, I think, the original script before we started production, she came off a little uncaring, a little too much. And I realized she needed some sort of an arc, some sort of change in her. So she's just not this sort of one-dimensional, bitchy character. And so she definitely has this little subtle shift in her when she gets sort of blown in the face with the blower. And then even after that, she goes back into her pattern.
Mm.
But once Ruth storms off and isn't there to kind of be, Connie isn't can't be seen by Ruth, and how she's reacting. Do we see a real moment with Connie and her sort of shift a little bit with just the word shit?
Yes.
And a lot of that, also was, I think, Marilyn Bush, who played Connie, made some really nice choices of just sort of she just knew how to capture both this sort of like numb woman who was kind of being mean to her partner, and also capture the comedy of it, because this is a comedy, um, but then find some warmth in her too. So I think it was probably a really difficult balance, but Marilyn Bush pulled it off, so that helped too. And then just in editing, I think we made sure we had, Marilyn gave us great takes in different ranges for a lot of each of the shots, and so we had a lot to play with to decide, did we want to like make her nicer here? How mean do we want to make her here? How indifferent do we want to make her here? So we were able to kind of piece piece her together that way as well. So in the art.
Yeah, the way you cut it, I thought there was so many ingenious moments.
Yeah, Kate
Like,
Emerson, our editor, she's fantastic.
it was so good. Like there was this moment when Ruth is lying in the leaves towards the end, and we start off close up, and then as you pan out and the music is playing, and then it just cuts and it was just like, because you felt this vastness, right, that Ruth is being swept away in this ocean, and then suddenly it's just like, what's for dinner? Yeah, and it's just
It's
like,
brought back to
oh my
reality.
god, that was
Yeah.
just perfectly put together. Like,
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts. Ruth was played by Joan Shangold. She was just, trying to process the death, and she finally had a moment and maybe was starting to find some peace, or at least some pathway to peace. And then it just gets interrupted by Connie. And that really sets the trigger off, that really sets her off and leads to the blow to the face.
oh man, yeah, no, I thought the use of music and just the different angles and everything just worked perfectly here.
Yeah, the music is one of my favorite things about the film. It's Christopher McGlumpy, who's actually an old childhood friend of mine. We grew up in the same neighborhood together, and I'm really good friends with his sister. And years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I was pursuing a music career as a singer, and he um, did an arrangement of one of my songs, and it just always stuck with me. And when I was putting this film together, it just the music of that song, sort of the way he arranged it, just I knew I wanted to go with some sort of a tango feel. And we actually originally my idea was to take the old tango song Por una Cabeza, which you've heard in like Schindler's List and Son of a Woman, and that famous, and sort of deconstruct it. And so that was my idea that I came to with Chris, and then he just took a whole nother sort of level and came up with this whole great sort of soundtrack for us. So it's a very, I think, musical piece. I mean, it's a tango. Not only is the hamster's name a tango, but the Goodbye Tango is it's sort of, the marriage is a tango. It's the most dull tango you've ever seen, but there's passion there, and there's a give and take, and there's fighting, and there's and so it's and they're sort of saying their goodbyes to each other, or perhaps not. And so I think the music sort of ties it all together really beautifully.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, having that vision for the music, then you give it to Chris and he comes back with something completely different, right? When something like that happens, what is the process for you? Because I can imagine you're spending time like thinking about the project, and this is the vision, right? You'd be like, okay, this is what it's going to be. So when the music comes back, it will be like that, and it will fit, and boom, boom, boom. And then you get given this different thing.
Yeah.
So is it an instantaneous, oh, this works so much better than my vision, or it's okay, but this wasn't really the vision? Like, how long does it kind of take for for things to kind of coalesce in you to how we will now proceed?
It evolved, like it wasn't necessarily a matter of Chris like just bringing his first take like completely different. I think he was trying to do what I was suggested, and then I think he started slipping in things that maybe I wasn't suggesting, and I was like, wait, I like that works. So it took like, I think we went back and forth for 2 months. I must have drove him crazy because I was sometimes getting down to like a beat, like just move this beat here, and he was so patient with me. But yeah, it was, it's totally trying to just it's another character, and having it sort of come in and out with the other characters. So it was a process. It was a process for sure.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. Now, with this whole process and it might change depending on the project, but what is easiest probably isn't the right word, but with the editing, right? Looking at the film and the structure and going, oh yeah, that works like this, and boom, boom, boom. And then the music, right? Which is the one that maybe comes the easiest?
What's the easiest to kind of see and know, like, okay, that's
Yeah.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it changes, I think, every day, like every draft you get, I yeah, I don't know how to answer that, to be honest.
That's fine. That's
I don't
there's
want
not
I don't want to
always
come
a
up with a
perfect
bullshit
answer to
answer.
everything. No, yeah, I'm always just fascinated with the process, how things come together, because like everyone has a different way of doing things. So that's the thing I love about having these kind of conversations, because it's always just fascinating to find out that, oh, they did it like this, and
Yeah.
then you speak to someone else and they did it a completely different way. And it's just like, huh.
Yeah,
Right.
it was.
The end product on both is great, but getting to that was so vastly different.
Yeah. I mean, with Kate, it was Kate Emerson, the editor. I was able to sit down with her, and 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 we went through it together. Versus our first film, Cocktail Hour, it was during the pandemic, so we did everything sort of via email. And then with this, and so obviously sitting down with her was so much easier, move so much faster, and we could experiment more and try things more and be creative. Whereas with the music, Chris is in New Mexico in Albuquerque. I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and so it was a lot of emailing back and forth. And so I'm literally writing like in text, trying to just, we're writing back and forth musical stuff and trying to like, can it crescendo here and drop the beat here on 4 instead of 2, and stuff like that. And so that was interesting to kind of do it all through email. I do. It would have probably been nice to sit there with him as well, for both of us, but that was the process.
Okay.
We got
And
there.
yeah, no, definitely, man. Like, why email rather than a video call?
Say that again.
How did you settle on email over a video call?
I think we've called here and there. Maybe it was just sort of times. We both have other things going on in our lives, and I guess it was just a habit. He'd send me a draft, and I would just start writing notes, and I just, yeah. Rather than trying to coordinate a time to kind of talk and do a video call. I don't. That's a good question. I think that just just did it through email for some reason. Perhaps maybe a video call would have been better next
Mm.
time.
But I definitely kind of get it, right? Because sometimes you have an idea or oh, this is what I'm thinking. And it's easier to get it down at that point rather than like, okay, so if I wait until 10 o'clock and we can talk it through, but if
Yeah.
you wait, a lot of that thought could go, right? And the whole flow and narrative that you're thinking of changes slightly. So trying to get it down in the moment, it does make sense. I
It
can
also,
definitely see that.
yeah, and it also lets you communicate better. It allows you to reread what you're about to send and make
Mm.
sure it's clear, and you can list it and you're not forgetting anything, and you can just go through it. And whereas when you're talking, you might have to explain it 3 different times, and then it might be more confusing. Um, and he, the conversations did have, I could tell he was writing down the notes, and I'm like rambling, and I'm like thinking, is he even getting all this? Like, like I'm going too fast, or so. Yeah, that
Mm.
was the process.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, that is fascinating. Um, oh God, I was gonna ask you something and my mind has just suddenly gone blank. It's just like, okay. Hopefully it will come back at some point. Like, oh, visual cues, right? Like with, when it's putting together something like a score, do you kind of think about films with musical segments that work really well and you're like, this is what I'm trying to get with this scene? Do you kind of find those and send them, or send songs or scores that you go, I love this, I'm looking for something similar, or this but a bit up tempo or slower? Do you do that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, for sure. We, like I said, I did sort of start with the Por Uno Cabizzo tango, but I also had versions. When I wrote this, I like to play music. Music plays a huge part in all the process I do. And when I wrote this, I like to listen to music that I picture sort of being the soundtrack. So I actually listened to a lot of roller skating organ tangos, like to give it that sort of
Okay.
quirky feel to it. When the old roller skating, when they would have the organ player play the music,
Where
and
do you find that?
YouTube. Where else can you find anything? So I would just listen to a lot of that. So I would send a lot of that to him, and then at one point, I'm a huge like Hitchcock fan, especially from a music standpoint. I
Mm.
just love all his soundtracks, just the drama of it, and the strings, and just the melodies are just so like heavy and rich and over the top. Um, and so I had mentioned that Chris, and he's like, "Oh, he loved it too," and that's a huge thing he loves. So I think there's a little bit of that in there. So yeah.
Ah. So, talking about listening to music as you're creating, because yeah, I find like listening to music, when doing a lot of writing and that, like, yeah, that I like that helps, and
Yeah.
it definitely, depending on what I'm writing, definitely kind of depends on what music I'm gonna listen to. So, what with the kind of thought of this film, at what point does the type of soundtrack come to you? Or does the soundtrack come first, like, or the story come first? Like, how do you find that, find that fit to then you go, okay, I'm going to listen to this as I'm writing?
It can I think both ways. Usually, I would say the story probably comes first, or I start getting an inkling of an idea of what I want to write, and as I'm writing it, I start playing music that I think sort of feels the direction I go, or that I'm going, or want to go. Um, and with this script, I originally wrote it about my dog. It was a little more on the nose, and it was a little heavier, and I realized this isn't really my style. I love comedy. I love writing comedy. I like doing just things that make you laugh and using humor to kind of deal with tough situations. And so the original draft with the dog and everything just felt a little too much and too heavy, and I was afraid it would come off a little melodramatic and not in a funny, campy way, but just fall flat. And
Mm.
so I started trying. So I think I started up with the music first, kind of like inspire me to kind of like finding this sort of quirky, funny music as with the roller skating organ music from the 60s and 50s, and that just sort of made me kind of rethink the style. And to me, I think what really shifted things was when I changed it from a dog to a hamster, and it just sort of gave it a little more of an interesting angle, I think, to it. So
Was hamster the first animal transition, or were there any other animals that came to mind before you were like, actually, no, hamster?
I think I might have done briefly gerbils. I grew up when I was a kid. I had like 15 gerbils.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I had a lot because they breed like crazy.
Yes. Yes.
And so yeah, gerbils for a second. But I think just logistically, there was something reason I had to make the switch from a gerbil to a hamster. I think it was something to do with the tubes. I wanted to do the tubes and the wheel, of course. Um, Though I can't remember. Do gerbils do all that too? I can't remember. But there was a reason. Some technical reason. Like I was reading about hamsters. I was like, all right. Oh, you know what? I think maybe I just read that hamsters might be easier to work with than gerbils.
Yeah, gerbils can be temperamental. They want
Yes,
a
yes.
big,
They don't
yeah.
come out of their trailer. You know, you
I
bang
know,
them on the
right?
door.
Their
Exactly.
rider is crazy.
Hamsters, professionals all the way. Yeah.
uh-huh. No, interesting, interesting. And where does the wardrobe come into it? Do you write that into the script, or is do you hand that kind of thing over to someone else?
Well, I did the wardrobe, and people thought I was crazy because I think in this 15-minute short, each character had the two main characters had, I think, at least 7 costume
Oh yeah, there's
changes,
quite a
and we
few.
were filming this in a 3-day shoot, and I think it was probably overambitious and uh, barely, but somehow we made it work. But I think that if I knew how hard it was going to be, I probably wouldn't have done it, which is probably a good thing because I'm glad I did it.
Mm.
This is why sometimes not knowing things is good, because you just, once you're in that hole, you gotta, get yourself out of it. You make it work. But yeah, I think when we started putting together sort of the style, and Derek Amengwal, which is who did the cinematography for it, we would just start discussing like the beautiful cinematography. I just the colors and everything on this film. Just he really made it pop and just made it look gorgeous. And we he helped, I think, inspire me and in terms of dressing the set and the costumes. And we had some time before production to kind of go to the cabin and really shoot sort of test sort of shots and frames and stuff. And then I sort of built the costumes off that. It was just lots of shopping at Goodwills and Salvation Armies and estate sales. And I literally shipped like a big old garbage bag box of clothing to Marilyn Bush, who plays Connie, who lived in New England when we were filming, and then she just tried everything on and sent me pictures. I said, all right, that works, and I think I had backups for each thing. And so yeah, it was just we threw a lot of things against the wall costume wise, and just took what stuck. So
Yeah, no, I did think the different costume changes worked, right? And it all felt like, yeah, that character, yeah, that seems perfect for that character and the way they are. So yeah, no, I thought it was all, really helpful in telling this story.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you storyboard, or do you use a different method?
I storyboard. I'm horrible at it. I mean, my storyboards. Like I would ever show anybody my storyboards. They're stick figures, like at the worst level. And somehow Derek is able to see what I'm trying to say and find the shots. But yeah, I do storyboard. Very
Ah,
helpful.
nice, nice. Like, what was the process like with, the casting and just finding the crew for this?
Yeah, so I worked with Jeanette Bonner is the other producer on this um, film, and along with Derek Almengual and I, and she's you know kind of put us. We actually did it through Breakdown Services, which is a sort of casting website. Um, we didn't use a casting director. We didn't really have the budget to do so, and so we just, and I'm somebody who just wants to go through every single, I look at every single person that applies, and it's shocking the amount of people you get, even for like a low budget, small film. But I'm looking at every single person, just looking for, obviously the skill and the ability, but just, the feel they're giving me and the look, and the sort of heightened reality we're trying to create, and putting all that together, and then you're, go back and they you start minimizing, kind of casting the net and then pulling it in and funneling it down. So yeah.
Okay. And what about, cinematographer and editor and just all of those kind of components of the film?
What about how do I?
How did you find those collaborators?
So Derek Amengual, the cinematographer, is a good friend of mine, as well as Kate Emerson, who's the editor. They've been with me for both my short films. I've known them for years. Derek was really the one who, before I made my first film, I was more of I always wanted to, as they say, everyone says, I always wanted to direct, but and when I went to film school in my early years, that's what I was sort of going for. Then I dropped out, did a bunch of other things, and then when I went back to film school, I went more in a screenwriting direction. And
Okay.
so for a few years, once I got back into things, I was just screenwriting, and then I decided that maybe I should make one of my films, my one of my scripts, to kind of get my writing out there.
Mm,
And Derek was really sort of a early champion for me to do that and help me out on that. Um, and it really brought, doing my first film really sort of reignited my love of directing, and it was my first passion, and kind of I realized, I don't think I would ever want anyone else to tell the stories I've written except, me. Like I want to just do it myself, and because I feel like it's really it I allows you to kind of get every detail that maybe you're not getting in the script out. Especially after this short film, I realize this more and more, because like I said, the script with Goodbye Tango, I was a little, it just didn't feel like it was, when people read it, was necessarily coming off like I had hoped it would. And then when I actually made the film, it did.
yeah.
So I like having the additional tools of not just writing and down on paper or final draft the story, but then being able to cast the characters, um, cast the actors to play the characters, work with them to kind of get the character that you know is kind of coming from the pages, seeing what they add to it, accepting some of the directions that are different from what I thought, but realized are better. Same with all the technical stuff, from the cinematography to the editing to the music, just putting it all together, sets, costumes, and really just really writing. I just feel like I'm still writing it from the day all the way through editing, I feel like I'm writing this. Even when we're editing, we're writing it, in a sense. So that's just how I want to create things, and not just write it on the
Yeah.
script. So
I mean, that makes sense. That
maybe
makes
that makes me a control freak, but that's what
no,
that
but
is.
well, I think, we all can understand what our strengths and weaknesses are and the vision that you may have. And, I think there's probably people that think, okay, my writing isn't my strongest. I'm probably better behind the camera, or, vice versa. So if you know that you can tell a story, why not? Right? Why not do it? And, you know, after watching this, it's obvious that you can do both. So, hey, just keep doing you, man. Keep doing you.
Thank
Like,
you.
is there one that you feel more comfortable with at the moment, like writing or directing?
It's the hat that you switch back and forth. So right now I'm back in writing mode, um, but I think that I think I probably feel more comfortable directing. I just I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I think I need them both. I feel like I'm not the strongest writer alone, just solely, and I'm not maybe the strongest director solely. But when I put the two together, I think that's where my strength is. And so yeah,
Okay. Ah.
that's two short films in. Who knows? That
Mm,
could
mm,
change. Like I've still got a lot to learn. I think I'm in both areas, but yeah.
But, do you ever stop? Right? I think with most things, I just think you're always picking up new skills. There's
Yeah,
always something that you can be like, oh, I never thought of doing it like that before. You know what I mean? So it's just a process, right?
it is, and I think I'm a big firm believer in the what is it, the 10,000 hours theory, where no one has a natural gift. It's all really working at it,
Mm,
and um, yeah, I do believe in hard work and working and work to get better and better at something, and that each time you do something, you get a little bit better, and eventually you hit a point, maybe in 10,000 hours, so that you hit a stride and you kind of can can do good things. So I'm working toward that, and we'll see.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Have you thought about the other ways of telling a story? Doing a TV series or a documentary or a feature film. Have you kind of thought about that, or are you most comfortable with shorts at the moment?
No, when I write, I usually write features. I did write one pilot TV episode or series, that I was sort of developed. That my first short was sort of a proof of concept for. But most of what I write are features. The shorts were sort of a means to a way of getting the features out. Um, and I hope to one day direct one of my features, and that's sort of the goal. You know,
Right.
um, whether it's after this short or maybe I got to a couple, one or two more shorts. I really hope to one day be able to do a feature. That's really what excites me.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I'd be fascinated to see it. Like, how many shorts are on the shelf at the moment?
Just the two, just two. I think I would like to. I kind of been trying to decide what do I need and want to do next, and I think I want to do another sort of proof of concept of one of my features, in short form,
Mm.
so that, and kind of then use that to sort of hopefully take off from there and get the feature made. So I could see me having maybe one more short in me before I start trying to go after that. We'll see.
Okay.
Want to make God laugh, make plans, but that's where I'm at, or hoping to.
Mm. And genres.
Yeah.
What do you like to play in? Are you open to different ones, or do you prefer like a comedy?
It's usually comedy. Everything I've written is comedy, some form or another. Some are maybe more dramedy-ish than comedy, but I think comedy has always been, for me, the tool to deal with things. And it's not just superficial, shallow laugh at stuff.
Mm,
It's a way to have conversations that maybe you can't in drama. It's a valve that we all need, which I feel like right now we are losing. I think sense of humor is becoming um, a harder thing to find, and some of the tough things happening in the world today, and because I think people dismiss it as making a joke of something when really it's
mm.
dealing with something. And so that's for me uh, a really important sort of aspect of my work is comedy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what are the kind of comedies you like? Because I kind of feel that this had a bit of a submarine vibe,
Oh
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, I think I tend to like a bit of a heightened comedy, or a little silly, almost silly, quirky, abstract sort of comedy. Everything. My favorite film of all time is Waiting for Guffman. So that is there's that. I loved Strangers with Candy. That sort of edgy comedy. I, I grew up watching Saturday Night Live and Living Color. Uh, the Yeah, right now I'm watching the other two. I think there's a little camp in my humor, um, a lot of gay humor, sort of takes on the world. So yeah,
Uh-huh. Okay. Cool. No, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next, right?
thank you, thank you.
Yeah. So, other than dances with films, do you have any other dates for this on the circuit?
Yeah, we just started hearing back from festivals. So like I said, we're premiering at Dances with Films, which is a great place to premiere. I'm really excited about that. That's
Mhm.
this Saturday, June 24th, 2:45 p.m. at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood. And then our next festival looks to be Woods Hole in Massachusetts, a really beautiful, picturesque uh, New England town, or town in Cape Cod, and that's beginning of August, August 4th, 4 p.m. showing. Then we are going to out south in North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, which I'm returning to that. I showed my first film there. I love that festival, in this beautiful theater, the Carolina Theater in downtown Durham, which is a really cool town. It's really well attended by the people in the area. Everyone's so supportive, which is always really nice as a filmmaker to see. And so far that's what we got. But we got. I think we've heard back from 10% of the festivals we've applied to. So hopefully we have a lot more. Hoping for a New York festival, so we can do a nice New York premiere for our cast and crew, New York based, and we'll see.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So, how can people stay abreast of everything you're doing?
I guess Instagram. I have my Instagram is at pasteusa.com. That's PASTE USA. I have a t-shirt line called Paste. That's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. So it's a
Uh,
mix of that and my film stuff. Or you can check out my website. You can watch Cocktail Hour, my first short. That's on jasonlauritz.com. JASONLAURIT as in Tom, S as in Sam.com.
awesome.
Not Lauritis. One
Well,
I.
people, all the links will be on the website. So make sure you go get your tickets for Goodbye Tango and follow Jason so you can see everything he's doing and where else this film will be playing. So, yeah, make sure you do that.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate your time, man. And yeah, it was great to watch the film, and so really interesting to hear about how it all came to be. So thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Hey, no worries, man. All the success, and definitely when you've got that next project, come by and we'll have another conversation. Okay.
Will do. Will do.
Splendid, man. All right. Well, good luck on Saturday. I'm sure everyone's gonna love it.
Fingers crossed.
All right, man. You take care.
Have a good one.
All right.